Welcome to the Losers Club. I am so excited to kick off another year of the Losers Club readathon with my friends Beth and Elizabeth. I'm so excited that we're doing this again. It is a Stephen King themed readathon in case you missed the memo, and it's going to be going on from September 15th through September 21st. Today is September 14th, so I'm kicking off a little bit early, but that's okay because I'm a co-host, so I can bend the rules a little bit. You can too. I don't care. Do whatever you want. But I wanted to kick off a little bit early to pick my TBR together and to tell you about the first book that I'm going to be reading because I'm in the middle of a book right now and I'm sure that it will stretch into tomorrow. If you want all the full details of how the readathon works and the rules and all of that, I will link my announcement video down below. You can go check that out to hear all the particular details, but I'm just going to jump right into the prompts and what I think I'm going to read. For those prompts, I have not chosen yet, so we're going to be choosing together. But I do know the first book that I'm going to be reading is The Dinner Guest by B.P. Walter because this is the book that I am in the middle of right now, so we have to figure out a prompt for this to fit into, which hopefully will not be too hard. These are all of the prompts. I am probably going to be playing easy mode. There's easy mode or hard mode. Hard mode means you're not using one book for multiple prompts. Easy mode means you can use multiple prompts for the same book. That's probably the way I'm gonna do it. But these are all the prompts that we are trying to collect. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read a book with 500 plus pages this week. First of all, I don't know if I have a book on my immediate TBR with 500 plus pages, and that just sounds like a lot of work. So I don't know about that special edition card. But for the main prompts, we have a book influenced by book talk, booktube, or any other bookish content, a book with an isolated setting, a paranormal or supernatural book, the buddy read and or movie watch, which we'll talk about in a second, a book with a female main character, and a book with a one-word title. So I think what this one is going to have to fit with is a book with a female main character. There's actually multiple perspectives in this, but one of the perspectives is a female named Rachel. And I don't remember where I initially heard about this book, but it's been on my radar for years and it's just been sitting on my wish list. And then my friend got it for me for my birthday and I was like, yes, I finally have an excuse to read that book I've been wanting to read for years. And so far I'm really liking it. I am 75 pages in and it's just really gripping. It is definitely gonna be a popcorn thriller. I'm gonna fly through it. It's gonna be a great time. It's one of those books with a really vague synopsis. It says 4 people walked into the dining room that night. 1 would never leave. Matthew, the perfect husband, Titus, the perfect son, Charlie, the perfect illusion, and Rachel, the perfect stranger. Charlie didn't want Rachel at the book club. Matthew wouldn't listen. And the book kicks off really quickly with the aftermath of the dinner party. Someone was murdered. Someone is saying they did it and they're going to jail. And then you're going back in time and seeing how all these people got together. And like I said, you're getting multiple POVs, and one of those is Rachel, the perfect stranger, who ends up coming into everything. So that is going to give me the Queen card. And now we have to plan the other ones. So let's go to the bookshelf. All right, so I have a lot of books up here right now that are going to be for the 24-hour horror-a-thon that is coming in October. If you did not see, I have a readathon that I host every other month. It's a 24-hour readathon dedicated to reading and watching horror. And in October, for spooky season, I'm doing a special edition where the 24 hours is going to be broken into 4 Friday nights that will each be 6-hour stints from 6 p.m. to midnight Eastern time. And we'll be watching a movie every night at 8 p.m. Eastern as well. So I have 4 books that are going to be the buddy reads for the 24-hour horror-a-thon. So all of these are off limits for this readathon because I have to save them for next month. So don't even worry about these. They're just going to be sitting here. Let's see. Let's start with something a little bit difficult. A book influenced by book talk or booktube. None of these are necessarily a perfect fit for that prompt. Like, they're not the go-tos you would think of what's being highly talked about on the internet, but I have been hearing a lot of people talk about The Stranger Upstairs and being excited about this being an upcoming release. And it is relatively shorter. I believe it's under 300 pages, so that should be good for a readathon. And I just got it with Book of the Month this month. This one also has a vague synopsis on the back. It says, a gruesome history, a hostile neighborhood, a new owner with a shocking secret. Welcome to Blackwood House. Ooh, and is this supernatural? I don't know if we're gonna know from the synopsis. It's about this woman named Sarah who's a therapist and self-help writer, and she just bought a gorgeous Victorian house in the community of her dreams. Turns out you can get a killer deal on a house where someone was murdered. She's renovating the house and her marriage is failing. And then as she's renovating, bad things keep happening. Her neighbors hate her. Her husband still sleeps on the couch. And though the builders try to cover up the horrifying past, a series of bizarre accidents, threatening notes, and unexplained footsteps only confirm for Sarah what the rest of the town already knows. Something is very wrong with that house. So it sounds like kind of potentially supernatural, but in case it's not fully supernatural, we can plan for the paranormal supernatural book prompt, which is the cemetery card with Silence for the Dead by Simone St. James. This is a story that does have ghosts in it. It says in 1919, Kitty Weeks, pretty, resourceful, and on the run, falsifies her background to obtain a nursing position at Portis House, a remote, once magnificent estate turned hospital for soldiers left shell-shocked by the horrors of the Great War. Hiding the shame of their mental instability, the patients suffer from nervous attacks and tormenting dreams, but something more is going on at Portis House. Its plaster is crumbling, its plumbing makes eerie noises, and strange breaths of cold air waft through the empty rooms. And why do the patients share the same nightmare, one so horrific that they dare not speak of it? Kitty finds a man, medical catastrophe, things are happening. I don't need to know too much more. We'll put this one on the radar for supernatural. And then we should probably talk about the buddy read, Gerald's Game. This is the buddy read, and we're going to be watching the adaptation of this book for the buddy watch. So I definitely need to read this one. We're going to have a book club discussion on it at the end of the readathon on my channel. So by the time you're seeing this, that will be live if you want to check that out. But definitely need to read this. It's about a husband and wife. The husband handcuffs the wife to the bed, then he dies, and she is stuck there and tormented by things that may or may not be real, and also just trying to escape so that she can live. So the only prompts we have left are a book with a one-word title and a book with an isolated setting. I'm pretty sure this is going to count for isolated setting, so I'm going to dual count that because I can only read so much in a week. And then the only book that I have that has a one-word title on my immediate TBR is Sucker by Daniel Hornsby, which is my book club book for September for my membership book club. And we're all terrified because the average rating for this is so low, and I think we all have regrets, but we're already here. We're already reading it, so we've just got to jump into it. This story was advertised as being something kind of like vampire-ish. I'm sure it's not real vampires, but there's something techie going on. It's some kind of satire about corporate America or something. I'm not really sure, but it sounded interesting. It's getting horrible reviews, and it's the only one-word title that I have on my TBR, so we're gonna just have to slot it into the week. I will also say I just got sent The Fury by Alex Michaelides from the publisher, and I am super excited for this, so I may swap this in for something if I really, really want to read it during the week. Maybe we could swap this Simone St. James book somehow. I'm not totally sure what this one is about. I don't think it's supernatural, but I'm just really excited to read the new book from Alex Michaelides, and this came with a really awesome little PR thing where there's this little thing that looks like a passport, and when you open it,
the wind was fierce that night, the night of the murder.
So we'll keep this in mind for a possibility, but these books are going to be my main TBR we'll be pulling from throughout the week. I'm very excited to kick off, and I will be starting with The Dinner Guest. It is officially day one of the Losers Club readathon. I'm excited to officially be kicking off today, and I'm already here to tell you about being halfway through The Dinner Guest because I did read a good chunk of it last night, and I'm glad I'm starting early because I have a lot of books on my TBR. I would really like to get through as many of them as possible, and I think this is a great one to start with because it's so popcorny, it's so easy to read, it's so easy to fly through, and we have a reading sprint scheduled tonight on Beth's channel, so hopefully I'll be able to maybe even finish this one tonight. Maybe get a lot of reading done today, finish a book on the first day. That would be a great way to start things off. But I didn't tell you too much about this book in my first update yesterday because I was just trying to let you know what I was reading in general. So I thought it'd be a good time to slow down with this book, tell you what it's about, tell you about my experience with it. Pretty sure I mentioned yesterday that it's about this group of people, and it begins and someone has been murdered and someone is confessing to the murder, but it seems like there is a lot more complications at play. So let me introduce your cast members. Your main character you're following the most is Charlie. He is married to Matthew, and they have a son together, Titus, who I think was technically Matthew's son, and Matthew already had Titus when Charlie met Matthew, and then he kind of came in as another father figure for the child. And then you have Rachel, and she is the other sort of main character. She's a female character who you get a POV from, which is how I'm counting this for the card of getting the female main character prompt. And it doesn't tell you who was murdered and who's confessing, so I won't tell you that either, but everyone's got a little tagline. I read that yesterday. Matthew's the perfect husband, Titus is the perfect son, Charlie's the perfect illusion, and Rachel's the perfect stranger. So Rachel kind of comes into their lives and shakes things up. And you're getting perspectives after the event, after the murder, but also up to like 10 or 11 months before the murder, and then it's sort of like a countdown where you'll read like 10 months before the murder, and then you'll read like a day after, and then it'll be like 9 months before the murder, and then it'll be 2 days after. So you're like watching both timelines, trying to figure out what actually happened in that moment. And there's a lot of things that are suspicious, and it's just really, really fun to read. It's kind of like reminding me of a Frida McFadden book in that way, where it's just like really, really readable, not the most masterful writing, but just really readable writing. And that is really fun in a thriller. So I'm really enjoying that. I like the structure of it a lot. It feels really clever. And I just feel like I'm going to have my mind blown. I feel like there's going to be some huge twist that's going to just blow me away. And I could probably, well, I don't know about probably, I could maybe try to figure it out, but I'm not putting my mind to work with this book. I'm just reading, I'm just having a good time. I'm like, yes, sitting back, surprise me, let me have a good time. And that's what I'm having so far. And we're halfway through and we still don't know what happened. And it feels like we're getting close. So I'm curious if it's going to try to like drag out a big surprise or if I'm about to get a big surprise. It's just so easy to read that it's one of those books where you're literally like, oh my God, I have to read just one more chapter because I feel like I'm about to find something out. Oh my God, just one more chapter because that was a cliffhanger. And the publisher of this, or like the imprint, is actually called One More Chapter. And I was like, oh, that's very apt because this is that type of book. So far I would say great kickoff to the readathon. Excited to read more of this later this evening. Hopefully wrap it up or get close, and hopefully it keeps up the momentum because I am sensing it could be a 5-star. Hello, happy day 2. I am checking in with you at 6:20 p.m. I've had quite the day. I'm in my jammies. I just showered. I'm ready to chill for the rest of the night. I would have checked in with you earlier, but I had a longer morning than I anticipated because my partner and I went out for breakfast and we went to our first location at like 10:30. It's gonna be an hour wait. We were like, let's go somewhere else. We go there. That also didn't look like it'd be a good spot. So we go somewhere quick, like a place where you just ordered a counter and you wait. I'm like, this will be quick. It took an hour to get our food. So I spent a majority of my morning just trying to eat. And when I'm hungry, bad mood. And then the food wasn't even that good. And then I came home and I did finish the dinner guest. And then after that, I exercised, I watched TV, I showered, I did my skincare routine, I did a face mask, I did a scalp scrub. I just had a day. I had a self-care day. But I did finish this book and it is time for me to tell you about it. Unfortunately, it took a little bit of a disappointing turn towards the end. This book keeps you hanging for so long. Like, it really stretches out, trying to make you wonder what happened that night. Who really did the murdering? Was it really the one who's confessing, or was it someone else? If so, why? And why is this person in their life in the first place? Like, you're just really trying to piece all this together. And the way the timeline is constructed is really clever to keep you guessing and to keep it stretching out. But it stretches out for so long, like over 300 pages, that it really needs to have a strong payoff to make that feel satisfying. And unfortunately, it didn't give me the payoff I was looking for, of some kind of crazy dramatic twist, something that really like pulled the tablecloth out from under me. I felt like it was pretty normal. Like, it really didn't amount to anything too crazy. And then there's a lot of things that were going on in the story, or like one particular thing was going on in the story with the son and his behavior throughout the story that was very absurd and uncomfortable to read about. And I thought surely that would have some kind of reasoning by the end, and it really didn't. And so then that made me feel weird about the whole thing that was going on there as well. So I think this is going to be a 3.5 star for me. Had a really strong start, had a really clever setup, did keep me intrigued, was a page turner, didn't have the strongest payoff, but I would read from this author again. I went and looked into BP Walter, and it turns out that he has a couple of books, and he has a book that is getting ready to come out in a month or two. And interestingly, the book he has coming out later this year I can't remember exactly what it is called, but it has something to do with a dinner party. And the synopsis of that book sounded more like what I would expect this book to be about based on the cover and the title of this. So I don't know, it kind of intrigued me, and I might pick up another book from him at some point in the future. I'm not like super eager to, but I think he has a compulsively readable writing style, and I like that in thrillers. So I would definitely give another book from him a chance in the future. This one I thought was just okay. A fun time to read, but didn't have a super strong payoff for me personally. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our buddy read, Gerald's Game. I don't know if this will be a quick read or a long read. It looks like it's about 380-ish pages in this copy I have, and the text looks pretty average sized. So I don't know, we shall see. I'm going to try it out probably tomorrow. Tonight, I think I just want to chill and watch a movie. I've got Uber Eats on the way right now, and I'm very excited to eat dinner because I'm very, very hungry. I didn't really have lunch because I had such a late breakfast, and now I'm like, I'm ready to eat dinner. And I don't know what I'm gonna watch yet. I was looking through a couple things. I tried to put on that show Shelter, which is an adaptation of a Harlan Coben book, but it wasn't grabbing me. So I think I'm gonna try a movie, maybe The Last Voyage of the Demeter, or do I do a rom-com? Because there's a couple of those on my radar too. I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna go do that. I'll check in with you again tomorrow. I'll start Gerald's Game, and I'll let you know how it is.
Say so. I think his job sounds duller than dog shit, and only Maddie has the vaguest idea of what it is he does. Tom insists that he needs that time on the lake to recover from the stresses of his job.
The lighting is really strange here, but this should probably be a pretty quick update, so hopefully it's not too annoying. But I've been hanging out, working on a Taylor Swift Midnight's puzzle, which I am almost done with, but all I have left is like the dark pieces, and that's the hardest part. So I'm taking a little break to tell you about Gerald's Game because I've been listening to it on audiobook as I've been working on this puzzle, and I am now halfway through the book. I'm on page 202, so I've read a lot of it, and it's time to talk about it. I'm hating it a lot. I don't like it at all. It's not for me. In any other circumstance, I would be DNFing, but because this is the buddy read, I'm pushing through, which is also why I'm listening to the audio to just get through it as fast as I can. The concept of it does sound interesting, and I also swear I've seen the movie adaptation of this when it first came out, but I only remember the setup of it and a dog, and I don't remember anything else about it. So I'm gonna be curious for our movie watch on Wednesday for how much the adaptation resembles the book, and if the themes are the same, and if it spends as much time in her head as it does in the book. But with the initial setup of the story, you're like, oh gosh, this is going to be a very claustrophobic book because right off the bat, it just starts with her handcuffed to the bed, husband dies, boom, you're in it. And the whole time I'm like, how is this book almost 400 pages? How is there this much story to explore? And everything just feels like it's drawn out, and I don't know, like sometimes you get a sense of where we're going with the story, but it takes like 15 pages to do the thing or to get to the end of the flashback of like what happened. I'm just feeling like it's taking a lot longer to say what it's trying to say. And this book is also heavily about sexual assault in a way that I was not expecting, and it's just really uncomfortable. So I'm not having a good time, which is why I knew this update would be short, because that's about all I have to say about it. I have these experiences with Stephen King's books where I either enjoy them or I just really, really, really dislike them. And last year for the readathon, I think I read Salem's Lot in addition to our buddy read, and I had a similar, or not Salem's Lot, what did I read? No, it was Salem's Lot. I tried to read Salem's Lot, and I really didn't like that one. And I really don't like this one. But this is our buddy read, so I'm gonna keep reading it. Maybe it'll take a turn, I don't know. But if you do not like themes of sexual assault, then please stay away from this one because it's a lot. But I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna finish it. Not tonight, probably tomorrow. I'm just like, I almost want to pick another book up so I can have a good time reading, but I'm like, no, get through this as fast as possible so that you can move on to the next book. So that is what I'm doing. I found the strength and I finished Gerald's Game, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It's gonna be a 1 star for me, and It did not go well. I just really did not like this one at all. I just thought it stretched out so long. This probably would have been fine if it was 100, 150 pages, but to have like 400 pages of this was really painful for me in more ways than one. And I also just don't really get the direction the story goes right at the very end. I mean, I do get what it's trying to say thematically and in finishing out Jesse's character arc, but it's really out of left field. It feels very strange. It feels very disconnected from the rest of the story. And all in all, I just didn't have a good time. Very curious to see how other people are feeling about this one, to chat about it in our book club discussion, and most curious to see the movie adaptation and how it plays out with all of the like voices in her head and what they do with all of that. So I will keep you posted on how I feel about the movie once we get to that. Today's Monday, the movie watch is on Wednesday, so still a bit of time before we get to that, but I will let you know my thoughts on it and how it compares to the book when we do get to that point. But overall, this one, not a good one for me. And I did want to say, in the spirit of this being a Stephen King themed readathon, Stephen King books that I have liked, because if this is going to be the only Stephen King book I talk about in this video, that's going to be a real downer. So I did want to share which ones I have enjoyed. Probably my favorite Stephen King book is The Shining. I really enjoyed that one. I liked the audiobook. I liked reading it physically. I liked the vibes. I liked the movie adaptation. There are things I don't love about the movie adaptation. I definitely prefer the book. Don't like what they did with Wendy's character in the movie, and they changed some things about how they show the little boy in the movie versus in the book. So I definitely prefer the book, but I did really enjoy The Shining. That one is probably my favorite. I also have read Revival, I think it's called, and this is a more offbeat one. I don't see people talk about this one much, but I had one of my IRL friends recommend this to me. It's one of his favorite Stephen Kings, and I did really enjoy this one as well. I thought it was written really well. It's kind of like this guy telling a life story sort of thing. And there's this weird older guy who comes into his life, and there's a little bit of like, is it magical things going on? Is it like religious things that are going on? And overall, I just thought that was a pretty captivating story. I also thought Elevation was fine. That's a short little fantasy-ish, sci-fi-ish kind of little novella, and it's very, very brief, but if you're just looking for a quick hit, it was a fine little story. And I think those are the main ones that I've read and enjoyed. Oh, I've also read On Writing, which is his book he wrote about writing, a memoir on the craft, and I did enjoy that. What I remember from it and Stephen King's general writing advice is to take away the adverbs. You really don't need them most of the time. And I think that is everything that I've read and enjoyed. Oh, Joyland, I've read Joyland, and I think that was like a 3-star for me. That one was just okay. Not super horror based from my memory. And then I think anything else I've read by King that I didn't enjoy, I just DNF'd. Mainly Salem's Lot last year. I still haven't read some of the big ones like Pet Sematary or Misery or Carrie, but I feel like people don't really like Carrie anymore. Like that was just his first one, so it's popular. I don't really hear a lot of positive things about it. I do hear a lot of good things about 11/22/63, but I just don't know if that's up my alley, and I still have not read it. And I don't feel an overwhelming passion to pick up any of them. I don't feel like, oh man, I'm missing out if I don't read them. Those are just ones that are always like on my radar of if I ever saw it cheap somewhere, if I was ever in the right mood and the weather was the right temperature and all of the factors in the universe aligned, those are some that I might pick up. So anyways, time to move on to the next book in the readathon. It is currently like 9 p.m. on Monday night. So I still have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tomorrow we have reading sprints. Wednesday we have a movie watch. Thursday we have a book club. So I do have some events and I do work during the day. So I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to get through. Either 1 or 2 books, depending on if I get really engaged in them. But the next one that I want to pick up is The Stranger Upstairs because it is a shorter one. I'm intrigued by it and hopefully it can tick off another prompt or 2 so I can get more cards collected. And I'm going to try to read a decent portion of it tonight so that hopefully I can finish it tomorrow, and then I still have 2 more days so I'll have time to read at least most of another book. That's the goal. Like I said in the beginning, this is about a person who buys a house and they're renovating it, but then spooky things are happening. Spooky / threatening. I think it's going to be more real life threats than supernatural, but we shall see. I will keep you updated. Also, it's so interesting, this like neon trend that has happened this year with covers of just these neon pinks and blues, and this is just not characteristic of what you would think of a thriller or horror book years ago, because it looks so like bright and shiny, but this is very in right now, and I don't hate it, but it is kind of strange. Anyway, I'm gonna start this tonight, and I will check in with you tomorrow to let you know my first impressions on the book. We haven't chatted in a while. I've read a lot. I need to catch you up. I'm also so tired because yesterday I had my last coffee pod. I ran out of coffee and I forgot. And today I had to live the whole day without any coffee, and it's now 9:30 and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, is this what it would be like to not have coffee? Would I be tired and ready to go to bed by 9 p.m.? Crazy. So the energy is low, but still on reading sprints right now. We're on Elizabeth's channel tonight, and I'm reading The Stranger Upstairs. I did get this started last night, and I read about 100 pages of it last night. And then in reading sprints, we've done one sprint so far. We're in the second sprint right now, and I'm on page 164. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to talk to you guys before I finish this whole book. Unfortunately, I'm not having the best time with it. I don't really like the writing style of it. It's written in first person, and the main character is coming off very annoying to me. I don't really like the writing style of her and like being in her head, and she just has these like really choppy short little sentences, and I don't know, I just don't love being with this character, and it's feeling kind of, I don't know, just different from what I expected. She's very, very unlikable, this main character. Like, she's not likable in any way. Really has not had a redeeming quality about her, and you are watching her as her life's kind of falling apart around her. She's bought this house where someone was murdered like 100 years ago, and it's really infamous in the town, and she's bought it to renovate it, and she's also kind of like an influencer, and she's trying to like make a profit off of this place where this horrible thing happened, and just go about the internet flaunting around about it, and nobody in the town likes her, and she's getting like threatening notes, and things are happening with her cat, and her husband's kind of MIA, and she thinks like, I don't know, is he cheating on her? She doesn't know. And everything's just kind of like falling apart. And that's kind of the book so far. I was hoping it would be more spooky and that there'd be more of like a potential threat in the house. I mean, it's called The Stranger Upstairs, so I kind of had a thought of where it was going, and I can't really tell now exactly where it's going. But I will say around like the 100-page mark, it started getting a little bit more interesting because there started being these newspaper clippings put in, which are referencing like a month out from what you're currently reading, and that is leading to some ominous vibes where you're like, oh, what's going to happen? It's going to lead to that newspaper story. That could potentially be interesting. So it's kind of caught my interest a little bit more. And I will say it is very, very fast to read. I can't believe I'm going through it this fast. I usually don't go through books quite this fast on like a weeknight. Usually on a Monday night, I'm pretty tired, but last night I read 100 pages of this fairly easily, and I just about read another 100 pages again before I even checked in with you. So it's a very fast read, great for a readathon. I only have about 100 pages left of it, and I'm gonna try to read as much of it as I can tonight, but again, really tired, so may not finish it until tomorrow. But either way, I'll check in with you tomorrow on where I land with this, what my final thoughts are. Very curious to see where the ending of the story goes. Hello, friends. I finished The Stranger Upstairs, and I didn't like it, and I don't know what's happening during this readathon, but I keep not enjoying the books. What is happening? The first one was fine. Gerald's Game, not good. This one, not good. Not that they're not good books, not good for me. I didn't like them. Let me start with positive things about the book. It is short, it is quick, it is easy to read. It has a traditionally compelling setup where a woman is renovating a house where spooky things happened, and people in the neighborhood seem to be withholding secrets from her, and there's a general sense of paranoia throughout the book. But I expected this to be leaning into, and here I go talking about negative things already, I expected this to be leaning into the supernatural, like, ooh, is there a spooky ghost in the house? It's called The Stranger Upstairs. I thought there would be like more of haunted house feel to this, but this really felt more like a suburban drama sort of ordeal because everyone in the neighborhood seems to be withholding secrets from her, doesn't like her, confuses her for the girl who used to live in the house, who nobody really knows where she is. There's like a weird vibe around that part going on. Her husband is just like never there. I think generally the book just felt kind of like it, I don't know, like this is hard to explain, but sometimes I read these books that feel like they're written in a void. They don't feel super atmospheric. They feel like they're kind of floating in this like dark space and things are just happening. And it feels almost like a dream. in a way. That's kind of how this felt to me. It didn't feel fully shaped and fully atmospheric, and there's just certain pieces where I'm like, the husband was like barely in the book and he was like barely a character. You know, like that was kind of his thing, is he was always removed from her. He was off doing his own thing, but we didn't know a lot about him. And I think so much of this comes from the framing of who our main character is in this book. And I think that's a big cause for why the story feels the way that it feels. And also, she's really unlikable, and I didn't like the writing style because I didn't like reading her thoughts. Usually, I like unlikable characters. I usually think unlikable characters are edgy and fun and something different, but this one I just found to be really annoying. And it's really a story about her spiraling in her paranoia, and I just didn't feel like it worked for me. It just didn't really work for me. It wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't what I thought it would be. But then I got to the very end and I read the author's note, and it was talking about how the author was going through a really difficult time. She mentions how writers typically talk about the dark night of the soul, which is like a it's like a plot point in writing a story where everything gets horrible and the main character doesn't see any way forward, and like all the worst case scenarios happen to them. And the author talks about how she was in her like darkest night of the soul in life, and this book was a really important way for her to move past that. And there's like mental health resources talked about, so this was clearly very important for the author and a passion project and something that really helped her move forward in life. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it's great. I think everyone should be able to tell their stories, so nothing wrong with the book in its existence. It just did not work personally for me. And that now brings us to my third completed read for the readathon. And this was not able to check off the paranormal supernatural prompt, but I'm gonna count it for a book influenced by Booktuber Book Talk, because this is being talked about, because it's a book of the month book this month, so I'm counting it for that one. So that leaves me with the remaining prompts that I have are the paranormal or supernatural book and a one-word title. And because I like to win and I want to collect all of the cards, I am going to have to read the one book that fits both of these prompts that I'm not super excited about, but I have to read this month anyway, and that is Sucker by Daniel Hornsby. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this is my book club book this month. It's a one-word title, and I don't know if it's going to really perfectly fit the paranormal supernatural, but it implies that it's about vampires, and that's enough for me to collect the card. What I think this is going to be is a satire, and I'm worried that I'm gonna hate it, but I have to read it anyway, and it will get both of these prompts. And today is Wednesday. Tonight we're doing the movie watch, and tomorrow we have our book club discussion. So I don't really know if I'm even going to be able to finish the full book because I work during the day and then we have events going on in each evening that are not reading sprints. So I might not even fully finish the book, but I do want to make good progress on it and give you a first kind of report of how it's going. So I'm going to plan on picking this one up tonight. I'll let you know my first impressions on it tomorrow, and I'll let you know how the movie watch goes and how Gerald's Game movie compares to the book. Hello, it is the last day of the readathon, and yesterday I lied to you because I told you I was going to start Sucker, but I'm not. I didn't start it last night because we did the movie watch, and so that took up a good portion of my evening, and then I was tired and I didn't feel like reading, and now I've reached the end of my work day, and tonight we have the book club discussion, and I'm like, you know what? I'm really not going to have time to do any more substantial reading, so I'm just going to call it a wrap on the readathon here for my reading. But I did want to talk about the movie watch experience and how I think the movie compares to the book, which I'm sure I'll also be talking about in the book club live discussion that we're doing tonight, which is going to be on my channel, and that video will be live by the time you're seeing this. So if you want to see our full discussion of Gerald's Game, we'll do non-spoilers and spoilers, then you can check that out. I'll have that linked down below. But for a quick overview just of book versus movie, because I thought that would be interesting to talk about. I definitely preferred the movie, but I don't think I really would have liked the movie had I not read the book. I always like adaptations no matter what. Like, I really enjoy the experience of reading a book and seeing what happens to it when it goes to a different medium like film. It always just brings a sense of fondness for me to the movie. So I just enjoyed getting to see it on the screen, and I'll never know what my experience would have been if I had just watched the movie and viewed it as a movie instead of viewing it specifically as an adaptation. But I assume I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much because I just don't enjoy the storyline of Gerald's Game that much, which I never anticipated. You know, I read the book, I found out I didn't enjoy it that much, but I still wanted to watch the adaptation, and the adaptation was made or directed by Mike Flanagan, who I absolutely love. So I really enjoyed seeing Mike Flanagan's specific style in the film. There's a lot of things that just become kind of like familiar to his style when you've watched a lot of his shows or movies, and I just liked that. I like his style. I like how he brings films to life, like the cinematography, the soundscape, and the themes that come out in his work, even if he's working off of an adaptation of something that already exists and the themes already exist. They're not really his themes, but like the way he brings them to life, I just think he does a really good job with things. So I did enjoy the fact that it was a Mike Flanagan film, and that made me like it even a little bit more. And Kate Siegel was in it, and I didn't know she was going to be in it, and I love Kate Siegel. She wasn't a huge role, but she was in the movie, and I really like Kate Siegel. I think the movie did a good job of speeding things up that felt really dragged on in the book. My biggest complaint with the book is it just felt so drawn out, and it's like a million sentences to say one thing, a million pages to say one thing. And I was like, come on, I'm so claustrophobic, stuck in this woman's head while she is stuck to this bed, and it's just kind of boring the way that it plays out. In my opinion, it was boring to me. And there's some really like horrific things to read, and you get stuck there for a long time, and it's specifically stuff that triggers me specifically that I did not enjoy. The movie, I think, did a good job of moving through things quicker, not lingering on things as long, and the movie also did make some changes. In the book, as Jessie is stuck to the bed, she has a lot of voices in her head that are like people she knew in her past or manifestations of like her younger self, and they're talking to her throughout the book, and she's like talking back to them, and that's like a big piece of adding some more substance to the book, so you're not just really stuck with one person throughout the whole book. You have like pretend kind of people in there too. The movie didn't choose to do it that exact same way. They gave manifestations of her husband and herself as an adult, and I actually really liked that. I liked seeing more of the dynamic play out between her and her husband, even though he's dead. That's not a spoiler. He dies in the first couple of pages of the book, and that's the whole premise of the movie, is she's stuck handcuffed to a bed, her husband is dead, and then no one's gonna find her. I really liked being able to leverage that and then using that to kind of back into, for her psychologically, what their marriage was like and patterns that she was repeating in her life. I thought that was done well. Something else I did not enjoy about the book is the very ending that takes like a weird turn and goes in this kind of different direction, and I think it would have been very abrasive just like seeing the movie as well and seeing the direction it goes in. I think I would have been really confused. I feel like the book, I was less confused about what that ending portion was doing, and in the movie, I don't feel like it was clear enough what was happening to connect what that end piece was. I don't think it did the best job with that. But I will say I was very nervous for how the main portion or like reveal trauma thing of the book was going to be portrayed in the movie, because that's what I was like particularly really nervous about. And I thought it was handled fine. Not too overindulging or exploitative. Still not comfortable, obviously, but it's like horror, so that's okay. Like that's what it's trying to do, is be horrific. But it felt like a little bit more manageable for me personally, who is really uncomfortable by consuming that kind of media, in the movie than it did being stuck in the book. So that's my final thoughts of Gerald's Game book versus movie. And now I'll wrap up by recapping the 3 things that I read this week. We've talked extensively about Gerald's Game, and you can go watch a whole book club discussion about this if you really want to. So I won't linger on this one too long. It just was not for me. But like I said earlier, there are many Stephen King books I have enjoyed that I would recommend. This one was just best for me. And I was thinking on it, and I can't remember if I mentioned 1922 when I was talking about books that I enjoyed earlier, because that one's like a novella. It's like 100-ish pages. If I mentioned it already, then you already know, because I already mentioned it. But if I didn't mention it, I did really enjoy that one, and that was our buddy read last year for the readathon, and that one I really liked. And it's short, which is always nice. But for back to the things I did read during this week, The Dinner Guest by B.P. Walter was a really fun surprise for the first half, kind of fizzled out by the end, but overall still a positive time. Ended up being a 3-star read for me, maybe a 3.5 I might have said, but it feels like a 3 now. And I do think I will keep an eye out for what this author's doing, and I could easily pick up something from them again in the future. And then The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin, unfortunately, was also disappointing. I didn't have the best reading week, but I was excited to read this because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be talking about it soon, since it's a book of the month book, and maybe I was able to help set your expectations expectations for it a bit better. If you were also falsely steered like me and you just expected this to be a spooky haunted house kind of book, maybe now I can help you put you on a better path towards what you can really expect with this book. Also, my expectations I don't think were the book's fault. I think it was just like I assumed things about it without looking too far into it. So yeah, it did not work super well for me, but I am interested to see what other people say about it as people start to pick it up more. So that is it for the Losers Club Readathon Round 2. Thank you so much to anyone who joined us and hung out with us in the movie watch, in the reading sprints, in the Discord, everyone who participated and just spent the week indulging in spooky reads with us. It was so much fun, and it was so cool to see how many people participated last year and then they were participating again and they were excited for it. It was just really, really fun and really means a lot. So thank you so much to anyone who participated. Let me know down in the comments below if you did join us this week, how your reading week went. Did you read the buddy read? Did you enjoy it? Did you find a new favorite? Let me know all of the things down below, and make sure you go check out my other co-host channels who are also linked down below, and make sure you're following them because we all read really similarly. So if you're watching my content and you like it, you're gonna like their content too, and they're great. So make sure you're keeping up with them as well. But yeah, I think that's a wrap for me. So I'm going to go on into the book club discussion tonight, which you can go watch back if you would like, and put an official close on the readathon. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.